Welcome to the Power Exit Podcast. This show is dedicated to business owners who want to scale up, plan smarter, and prepare for the ultimate exit. We'll talk with M&A experts and owners who've been through the process to provide actionable advice so that you can sell your business on your terms and without regret. I'm John Marsh. Join me as we prepare to take control of your exit. Welcome to another episode of the Power Exit Podcast. I'm thrilled to have Allan Webb here, who is not only a partner at Snellings Walters, but also a pretty good friend. So Allan, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and maybe what Snellings Walters does.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk with you guys. My name's Allan Webb. Believe it or not, John, this is my 30th year in the commercial insurance business.
Awesome.
Snellings Walters is a privately held, we are a ferociously independent insurance agency that handles everything insurance. And we're blessed actually to make the top 100 list of the 100 largest P&C agencies in the nation.
Congrats.
Yep. And my primary area of expertise is in the construction industry.
Okay, awesome. Well, there's a lot of activity in the construction industry. We have a couple clients here at Marsh Creek who are looking to exit their construction-related businesses. So I'm thrilled to have you and your perspective on here, Allan. We have not yet talked about insurance, and I love you, but I hate to say it. Sometimes it's a little bit boring, but it is an important and often overlooked aspect of getting a good deal done. So, from your perspective, let's talk a little bit about the importance of a robust insurance program for your clients. Let's focus the conversation a little bit on, the exit and getting ready for transitioning of the business. So let's talk a little bit about, the housekeeping, the pre-sale housekeeping. We're adamant about planning in advance for your exit. So can you talk a little bit about what insurance housekeeping looks like for a business owner before they take their business to market?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. Number one, with a lot of businesses, second to payroll, the largest expense that they have is health insurance, or even the combination of health insurance and the commercial insurance. So it's big dollars. It's impacting your EBITDA, which hence impacts your multiples. Okay.
Right.
From a housekeeping standpoint, and I'll speak about the property and casualty side of things. If you're running an operation that is a well-oiled machine, okay, whether you're making widgets or you're building buildings, if you have a lot of activity with regard to losses and loss ratio, that can be an indication of a business that's not being run very well. Okay. Not all the time, but it can be an indication.
Right. So, you mentioned kind of claims and why is it important to clean those claims up prior to a transaction?
Well, because a buyer is looking for as much certainty as they can get in the transaction.
Yeah.
And if you've got either out of control increases year after year after year, that's going to be an issue they're going to be concerned about. B, if they've got open liabilities hanging out there, open reserves on claims, if they, depending on the structure of the transaction, they may inherit those liabilities, and it's a concern.
Yeah, for sure. And that's extra legal work, extra due diligence to dig into those claims from the buyer's perspective. You mentioned how the deal's structured. So let's talk a little bit about, the stock sale versus the asset sale, and specifically how liability is handled between a stock versus an asset sale.
Yep. Very good. So I've had clients go through both types of transactions. First, an asset sale. They're rolling in and buying your equipment, your trucks, your manufacturing facility, maybe your building. They're buying your assets. Okay. The liabilities that come along with that, if it's just an asset sale, the purchaser is not going to shoulder those liabilities that may come about on down the road.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, the seller would have to provide and fund for those unknown liabilities. Okay.
Yeah.
In a stock sale, they're buying the stock of the entity. Okay. So if it's a standard corporation, not unlike, GM or Ford, if you're buying all the shares of that entity, you're getting all of the liabilities that come along with that. And having unknown legal liabilities or open claims and reserves, that's uncertainty that is going to erode your valuation.
Yeah. No, and I like that. And if I may dig in a little bit, on an asset sale or in an asset sale, the buyer is setting up a new legal entity, a new EIN number. And the seller is usually uh, closing down that other previous EIN number. Now, that doesn't mean the liabilities close as well. But in that stock deal, right, they are, like you said, assuming that EIN number from the previous owner. And, along with that, like you said, comes those liabilities, which increases the diligence. We like to say that diligence is like a colonoscopy without the drugs. When you add a stock sale aspect to it and unknown liabilities that may come along with it, that only increases the diligence and increases the amount of eyeballs on it, right? So let's talk a little bit about how a seller specifically can protect themselves as it relates to those unknown liabilities. So we've heard about tail policies. We've heard about E&O insurance. Are those things that you can maybe give the audience a little overview on?
Yeah. Yes, John. But before we get into that, let's get into the nuts and bolts of how a general liability claim comes to light. Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Um, I like to think of it in terms of the general liability policy being a room that has got a pile of money in it. Okay,
Mhm.
to pay for claims where you negligently injure another party. Okay.
Okay.
In order to get into that money room, you got to enter the door. Okay. We will call that triggering the policy. Okay.
Okay.
So if you need to get into that room to access those funds to make somebody whole, you've got to open the door or trigger the policy. Uh, Generally speaking, most general liability policies are going to be on an occurrence basis.
Okay.
Okay. And the occurrence is when the bad thing happens, the slip and fall. Okay. In a construction context, it's not when you put in the work and maybe you didn't do it right. Maybe you were negligent. Okay. It is when the little old lady trips over the uneven concrete, falls, and breaks her arm. That's the occurrence. Okay.
Okay.
If the occurrence happens while you own the shares, you've got insurance there to cover that. Okay.
Okay.
After the shares transition, if the occurrence happens 9 months after the closing, somebody's got to pick that up. And that is termed a completed operation or a products claim. Okay.
Okay.
So it could be outside of the construction context. Maybe you're making some kind of product. Okay. You're making something that injures somebody later on in time. The occurrence is what's important to open the door to get access to the pile of money. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Thank you for simplifying it for us non-insurance folks. I know we see per occurrence in the policies that we review, but this is where it's important to have a good person like you on the seller's side to help us understand that, right? So let's come back to the tail policies. Let me ask you something that comes up all the time, and that's EMR. And some of my clients say, "Oh, my EMR went up," but don't know exactly what that means. I didn't give you this question in advance. I'm throwing you a curveball unintentionally, but talk to us a little bit about what EMR means and how it may impact a transaction if your EMR is increasing.
Okay. So I will answer that question as long as you promise we can go back to the tail thing, because we're not doing.
No, that's why we're here. We're talking about transactions, but as we're talking, I don't know a whole lot about insurance, but I just want to bring that up.
All right. So EMR, experience mod rating, that has to do with workers' comp. So if you have a company that has got a heavy work comp exposure, okay, think of a roofing contractor where people, could get really hurt or killed,
Yeah.
versus a law firm where they get paper cuts. Okay. The roofer's going to have a lot heavier exposure. They're going to pay a lot more premium. Okay. The EMR is a measurement of what their claims experience has been versus the rest of the marketplace in their code, their class of it. So all the roofers in the country, imagine all the roofers are their code is 5551. Okay.
Okay.
So NCCI, who is the entity that promulgates the mod, they take in data from the entire country under that class code, and they figure out, hey, if you have $1 of payroll, you should get X amount in claims.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with an experience mod, an even average experience mod is 1.00. So if
Okay.
you've got an EMR that's 1.00, you are the same as the average roofer in the US.
Okay.
If you have a lot of claims, or you have more claims than they're saying that you should, you're going to have a debit mod, meaning it's going to be over $1. So a 1.31 mod means you're 31% worse
Yeah.
than the average roofer. Hence, you're paying 31% more for your work comp than the average roofer.
Yeah. And
The
like,
and the flip side is a credit mod. If you've got a 0.81, you're 19% better than the average roofer,
yeah,
and you're paying 19% less.
wonderful.
So that's how the EMR can impact the cost structure for your insurance program, but also people will use the EMR as a metric to measure whether or not you're a safe contractor.
That's right. That's right. We see it all the time, especially in, tree services, like you said, roofing, where folks can get really injured. And unfortunately they do. When we're going to market with a greater than one EMR, it's something that we have to be, well, we always say what it is. We're always looking for it and we're always telling the market what it is at the right time, but it is something that buyers look at very closely. So not only is it just premium dollars that you're spending as the owner of a business, but it's also impacting and forming judgment from the buyer on how you run your business and what your safety looks like. So yeah, thanks for talking a little bit about that. We are going to come back to the tail policy. We are going to talk about those things, but I'm going to dangle that carrot out for a few more questions if that's okay.
Okay.
I want to go back to the big picture. All right. Should have started with this, but we jumped right in. So, why should business owners be thinking about insurance when they're preparing to sell their company? I think you've touched on this a little bit. You've talked about EBITDA. We've talked about EMR. But what I see is folks are really not thinking about insurance as it relates to going to market. Is anything in while you're answering that question or commenting on that, also what role does insurance play in due diligence and buyer confidence? We've talked a little bit about that, but anything to add before we get into the applicable tail policy E&O insurance?
Uh, yes, I think the number one issue that business owners have, that I see more often than not, is they have well, there are a couple of different buyers out there.
Right.
There's the buyer that is sophisticated, that is trying to do what's right for their business because they're concerned about the welfare of the business. Okay. There is the next buyer is their process is to run the auction and just bid it out and get the cheapest thing they can get. and do that process every year. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's another set of buyers that they're buying their insurance from a buddy from church,
Yeah.
somebody from college, from their fraternity, uh, and they are concentrating more on the relationship instead of the welfare of the business.
Mm,
Okay. And when I say the welfare of the business is the only way you're going to truly impact long term the cost structure that you're having to support is to affect
mm,
change behavior. That either that's on the health insurance side, you enable and equip your employees to be better stewards of their health care and
yeah.
better consumers of health care, i.e., you change the loss ratio, or on the work comp side, you make a safer environment where you
Yeah.
don't have work comp claims. Okay.
Yeah.
Both of those scenarios are attractive to buyers and they speak to a well-run business.
Yeah.
Okay. So a business owner that's looking out for the welfare of their business, what's in their best interest for the business to run it effectively and efficiently and profitably, they are looking to uh, they're looking to their broker to provide leadership and to help them along the pathway of improvement so they become a better risk.
Yeah. No, and thank you. It hits home for me. In a previous life, I was the CFO at a medical device company and I was responsible for the insurance program. And candidly, I got nervous every year when a guy like you would come by my office because the news was oftentimes bad. Yeah. Yeah. This was during the Obamacare years and health insurance was just whoosh. And every year we're looking at a huge increase. And then we, tactically decide when to go out to bid it. And I didn't know anything about it. That's why it's important to have someone like you who's looking out and understands the market trends, who understands, what the market will bear. And balancing the cost benefit of, hey, I need a robust insurance program, but also want to be cognizant of what it's hitting the bottom, what hits the bottom line. So let's talk a little bit about, and we will come back to tail policy, but let's talk about trends because we've, I kind of hinted at that a little bit, right? So where's insurance trending over the last 5 years? Health insurance, commercial coverage feels like they keep rising. How do buyers view those costs when evaluating a business, and what steps can owners take to get ahead of the cost trends before going to market?
Okay, so setting the stage, since we're both sitting in the state of Georgia,
Yep.
uh, health insurance side, I think it's 7 to 10% rate increase every year. That's
Mm,
typical. Okay. If you don't do anything to affect behavioral change, that's what you're in for, 7 to 10%. Okay. On the property and casualty side, that picks up workers' comp, liability, and auto and umbrella. Uh, John, we've won two national championships as a state.
yes.
I'm not talking about football.
Well, we've won a lot of state championships too.
Well,
Sorry for all those tech listeners, but yes, a couple national championships. Are you talking about Georgia football?
no, we're not talking about Georgia football.
Oh, you see where my heart is.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, the judicial hellhole list.
Okay, gotcha.
John, I'm not cussing at you. It's a real thing.
Okay.
It is a ranking of the worst judicial jurisdictions in the country. And Georgia won the national title, being number one judicial hellhole in 22 and 23. And in 24, thank goodness we fell back to number four. All right. The
I prefer
reason,
my national championships. Go dogs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Roger that. Class of 95 here. Um, so the reason I'm saying that is auto is out of control in Georgia. We've got carriers leaving the state because they can't make money in the state. We thank goodness we got some tort reform passed and put and enacted into law this past session. But the climate in Georgia for property and casualty, especially for umbrella, auto, general liability, it's bad. It's troubling. And yes, you're seeing rate increases left, right, and center.
So what's a business owner do? How are you helping your clients navigate those choppy waters?
Uh, Again, it comes back to impacting behavior.
Got it.
It is dash cams on your trucks, forward and rear facing. It's incentive programs for safe driving or safe activity at the workplace. It is tying up and making sure that your risk transfer agreements are tight and executed, i.e., you're getting all your subcontractor agreements signed, your work orders, your purchase orders. They've got all the relevant liability waivers in them. It is going through the entire program of how you run your business and making sure it's as tight as possible so that you are the best risk out there and you'll get preferential treatment on rates and you'll affect the claims as well.
I love it. And I'd imagine that's part of what you do at Snellings Walters. You're there being not only that insurance provider or broker, but also the educator, helping client to implement these programs that may help them financially. Is that right?
Absolutely. And, this is not an infomercial for Snellings Walters,
Yeah.
but your agent, if they're not talking about making changes to impact culture or to change behavior, you're missing the boat because that's really the only way that you're going to impact your spend over a long period of time
Yeah.
is by changing and affecting behavior. That's it.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's interesting that you're hitting on something that I think is important across a lot of different functions, and that's having a trusted advisor, right? This isn't an infomercial for Marsh Creek either, but it's finding a firm, whether it's insurance, M&A, accounting, who's seen as a trusted advisor and a partner in your business. So, I know that about you. I know that about the firm. So thank you for sharing it. All right.
Well, and
Yeah.
with the Marsh Creek analogy, same thing. I mean, if you want to put a for sale by owner sign in the front yard of your business and go it alone, hey, good luck, man. Um,
Yeah.
if you want,
You can sell your business, but you're leaving a lot on the table.
you're leaving a lot on the table, and you're across the table from pros that their job is to beat you down. If you don't have an advocate on your side of the table, hey,
Yeah.
that's a process. I don't know that it's a good one, but it is a process.
Yeah. I mean, and not to get on my high horse, but I'm going to here for just a second. We've got a client. I'm not going to say anything about what that client is or what they do, but they had an offer from a large private equity firm of $27.5 million, all cash. On the surface, it looked really good. They brought me in. We created a small market and realized that, hey, they were leaving a lot of money on the table. We brought that offer up from 27 and a half to $36 million by just making a couple phone calls. It's finding someone who's going to advocate for you and help you understand how to do things the right way. It's not about saving a dollar. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but that just got me going on why it's important to have someone like you on the team to help watch their back. All right, we've been talking about it for a couple minutes. We've been dangling the carrot. Let's talk about tail policies. So sellers oftentimes are selling their business for the first time and only time, and they don't understand the risks that might go along with it. They think it's like selling a house. Hey, we sign the title, we sign the papers, and we're walking away with cash, and nothing is going to come back to us. It's not the same in a business sale, especially with what you outlined in an asset sale versus a stock sale. So, what can we do when we're selling a business? There are a couple things out there, right? There's tail policies, there's E&O insurance we've talked about, reps and warranties insurance. Can you talk a little bit about what it is a seller should consider purchasing if they're selling their business from an insurance perspective to protect them post closing?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's take the asset sale first. Okay. So you sell the assets, uh, you know, November 1, you're out. Okay.
Yeah.
You've sold it, you've closed the entity down. When the little old lady slips and falls over the floor that you installed, 4 years ago, with what GL policy is going to be triggered? It's going to be the one when the little old lady fell. So if she falls on Valentine's Day, post your sale, um, you're going to get sued.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's going to pick up the tab for the claim and the defense? And it may not even be a legit claim. Again, see prior comments, judicial hellhole. Uh, yeah, I mean, they're suing everybody. When you drive around and look at all these billboards,
Yes.
yeah, they're out there and they're looking for people just like you to sue that's got deep pockets. Well, if you do an asset sale and you don't have a tail policy to cover those products and completed operations claims that may come in post sale, uh, you're out there on your own. Okay. The tail policy is the tail of the liabilities that you for work or products you did prior to the sale when the occurrence happens and the lawsuit shows up post sale.
Gotcha. And do you have a real world example, or is it where someone benefited from this? So I'll start, right? We've got a
Mhm.
client sold their business. There were some claims afterwards related to a breaches of reps and warranties. They didn't buy reps and warranties insurance, and next thing you know, they're out a couple $100,000 fighting the buyer. Not every deal goes perfectly. Um, do you have a real world or real life example from one of your clients where either they benefited from purchasing a tail policy or they really wish they would have 24 months after closing?
So a tail policy and a reps and warranty policy are two different things.
Sure. But there's the either one in the example, right? The reps and warranties in the agreement. That's a great example, or a tail policy.
Yeah. So tail policy, that's real easy. You know, you got a fire sprinkler contractor that was doing the inspection work down at a dormitory for one of the local universities. Bing, bang, boom. After the sale, head goes off. John, when the head goes off, it always goes off on the highest floor in the building. Always. Okay. If you got 8 stories, it's going off on 8. If you got
Murphy's Law.
4. What does water do? It comes out of the head, it floods, and it goes straight down. So it floods all the floors below it. Okay, big claim. They were the last one out there to do the inspection. Their ticket is hanging in the riser room saying that we inspected this thing. John, who's getting sued?
Mm, yeah.
The name and phone number on the ticket. Okay. That is a perfect example of where a tail policy is going to come in and defend you. Again, you may not be negligent. You know, the guy, the kid in the dorm may have hung his laundry on the sprinkler head and busted the glass out. Okay. They may have hung a pinata in there and, you know,
A bank.
yeah, sure, you did it right. Uh, or you're getting
Is it Georgia? Are you speaking from experience, Alan?
no, no, no. Uh, when we were doing orientation though for my oldest son who's at Georgia, they did have a slide up that said, "Don't hang anything for the fire sprinklers," and they did have an Auburn Tiger pinata.
Ah.
What's that?
I like it. I like
Yeah,
it. Nothing like a good old SEC rivalry.
yeah. So, but pivoting over to the reps and warranties.
Yep. Well, and let's take a step back because
It,
I want to make sure we're clear from your perspective. Or explain to the audience what reps and warranties are from an insurance perspective in a purchase agreement and what the policy protects you from. So let's just make sure we're setting the stage for what it is.
so when the buyer is doing all the due diligence and they're going through their forms, they're looking for bodies buried in the backyard, skeletons in the closet, whatever. Um, you may very well uh, put everything down that comes to mind,
Right.
and you may either not be aware of or you forgot about that incident that happened a couple of years ago.
Right.
Okay. So you sign off, you do the deal, um, and 5 months after closing, this skeleton comes out of the closet. And the buyer's like, "Hey, you didn't tell me about this thing. Now, I didn't know that you were making, this weird product, or you had an issue with supplies and materials going into this widget. Um, we just ate a $500,000 or a $2 million claim because of this, and you had prior knowledge. We want to get reimbursed.
Right.
You made representations and warranties that you had unearthed all of the skeletons and told them everything. Okay. Now,
It's a real risk.
yeah, it is a risk.
Yeah.
And
Talk about it on every deal. Very few of my clients are interested in purchasing any type of post-closing insurance, whether it's a tail policy or whether it's the reps and warranties insurance. So I know it depends, and I'm putting you in a bad position here. But what do those policies cost? How are they priced? Is it a $10,000 policy? Let's pretend it's a $10 million transaction. Nobody's going to hold you to this, but how big of an expense are we talking about?
so what I've seen is they'll take your general liability premium, and they will have, depending on the length of the tail, how long you want it to go out, it will be a percentage of that GL policy.
Okay.
Okay. So if your GL policy was $100,000, maybe the first year premium's 50 to 70, something like that. And then the next year it slides down and continues to lower because the exposure, the further you get away from the operations that could have caused a claim, the less likely you are to develop a claim.
Yeah. Yeah. And, in a purchase agreement or in a transaction, I mean, there's something called an indemnification holdback. That's usually a percentage of the transaction value. So we're seeing a little bit of a change in the market. There's indemnification baskets in buckets in transactions, usually a percentage that's held back for a period of time, 12 to 24 months, that's used to address these issues, among others, but insurance issues that come up. We're seeing an increase in the market. Buyers are more willing to split the cost of a reps and warranties policy with the seller because they benefit from that. Is that consistent with what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, because it's eliminating uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I can do as good a job as I can do to fill out all the paperwork and let you know everything and all the skeletons and everything. I can do it all, and I can do a really good job, but I might miss some.
Yeah.
And again, uncertainty. Uh, we're just trying to take that off the table. Can you go it on your own? Oh yeah. Do I see it hitting both ways when my clients sell? Some of them are more conservative, and they'll want to buy a 3-year tail and reps and warranties. Um, some of them are like, well, hey, man, I've been rolling the dice all these years. I'll just go it on my own.
Yeah. These entrepreneurial business owners, I see it all the time as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But I will tell you, John, in my position as an insurance broker, I'm offering it
Okay.
because if I don't offer it and something bad happens, my E&O might get drug into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, that could be negligent, right? Especially if you know what they're doing. And that's why it's important for business owners with those trusted advisors to let folks know what's happening. And oftentimes, folks like you don't love it because that means if a private equity firm's going to buy the business, they're going to usually consolidate the insurance and they probably have an existing relationship. So you may lose that business. It's okay. Point is, are these clients taken care of? And yeah,
yeah, yeah, and that's the way I look at it is it's the life cycle
yeah,
of my helping people along their pathway.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to something else that we hear a lot about, and candidly, I'm glad you're here because I want you to explain it to our audience. It comes up all the time. We're talking about captives. Some businesses use captive insurance programs. Let's maybe take a second to explain what that is from your perspective, Alan, but also what do owners need to know about those and how they impact a business sale or transaction?
So basically, think of a captive as just another funding mechanism for your liabilities, whether it's health insurance or it's liability on the commercial side. Okay. It's a different mechanism and structure for funding it. All right. Uh, think in terms of you being a shareholder or an owner in an insurance company.
Okay.
So, I'm thinking of one a captive group in particular that we've got a lot of business in. There are over 300 independent businesses
Mm,
that own that captive. Each one of them owns a share in the captive, and they provide a structure for uh, the funding of these liabilities. Okay, um, some people will say they're self-insured.
yeah.
That's scary and inaccurate. They're really just putting it into a different structure, and they're taking a higher deductible because we're placing reinsurance just like an insurance carrier does. Okay, so we're really not self-insuring. Okay, Coca-Cola self-insures.
Right.
Uh, our mid to higher level businesses are not self-insured.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks. Let's maybe turn that around to how's that impact the sale? So you've got a client with a captive. What does that mean from a business transaction standpoint? What are the key questions around valuation, ownership, whether the captive remains or is shut down? Talk to us a little bit about specifically related to the sale.
Okay, so you had mentioned a good point earlier that oftentimes when private equity comes in and buys one of my clients, oftentimes we don't survive that transaction.
Yeah.
Not because we did anything bad, but because they already have a framework set up and they're just going to roll them into it. Okay.
Yeah.
Logistically, it makes more sense to do that.
Well, and depending on how big the buyer is, they may be able to reduce that EMR pretty quickly, right? By
Yeah,
plugging them into their existing program. Anyway.
yeah. Theoretically, they can. We have had several instances where, especially on a health insurance captive, our cost per belly button has, and that's how talk about it. Cost per.
Yeah, hey, I'm not no judgment here. Now your nickname is Allan Belly Button Webb.
Yeah,
Don't worry, we'll edit that out.
yeah. So, the cost per belly button on health insurance, our average business that is in one of these captive self-funded models hasn't had a rate increase in 5 years.
Mm, wow.
That's attractive to private equity coming in, and we have survived the transaction. They have pulled the curtains back and going, "Holy cow, how are you doing that? These results are a lot better than what we're doing.
Mm,
Let's have a conversation." So, uh,
very cool.
we do survive private equity from time to time because we are doing it better. Okay. But how it impacts the transaction is you've got to explain it to them because it is a different funding mechanism from just writing a check every month and paying a guaranteed cost policy.
Mm,
All right. It's different. There are, again, for the tails of the claims, funding that through reinsurance is different. And it takes a while to unwind a captive. If you're going to shut it down, it takes 3 to 5 years to fully shut it down and to get out of it.
mm,
Okay. The other complication is, remember, I said you're one of 300
yeah.
businesses that owns a share. Okay. The share, whoever the shareholder is, and it's oftentimes not the C corp that's the shareholder. Oftentimes it is the owner
Mm,
privately, because when your captive arrangement performs well and you get dividends back, it doesn't go back to the company, it goes to the owner of the share.
mm,
That can complicate things
yeah.
because, if the captive is performing well, private equity may want the captive to survive, they make it keep it going, and they do that from time to time. Okay. But where are the dividends going to go? That's another thing that you got to unpack
Yep.
is the original shareholder still going to be getting the mailbox money from the dividends, or is that going to be rolled into the transaction? And are they going to pay a premium for that?
And I'm sure you've probably seen both.
Yeah, of course.
It all depends. So I don't love that about my job, but the answer is sometimes it just depends.
I like the
Um,
term. I like the term definitely maybe.
Definitely, maybe. That's great. I like that. I might steal that from you. Yeah. All right, Alan, we've got one more question for you, one more series of questions. We want to end with some practical advice, right? So, we've talked about a lot of different things today. I want to leave those in our audience who may have ADHD with, just the common mistakes sellers make around insurance when they're preparing for an exit. And if you could give one piece of advice to a business owner who's listening about de-risking their business before a sale or after a sale, what would it be?
So a piece of advice, John, for getting your business ready to sell is streamline it.
Mm,
Okay, best practices. You want to streamline the transaction because, as an attorney friend of mine told me that does a lot of M&A work, he said, when you enter into the due diligence phase, you just inherited another job. Okay, it's another full time occupation.
yes, you did.
Going through the due diligence thing, and the better prepared you are to answer all the questions and to eliminate the roadblocks that you're going to run into or the issues that's going to cause them to pay you less money, the better off you're going to be. And having a streamlined safety program, risk management program with all your documents tied down nice and neat, and a good EMR and good loss ratio over the last 5 years, you are eliminating headaches and you're probably enhancing the valuation of your transaction.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Alan, I really appreciate your insight. You've shown that insurance isn't just about the cost of doing business, but it can directly impact the valuation and how smooth the sale can go. You're the first guest that I've been asked this question to as we wrap up, and I like it. So, what does a power exit mean to you?
Again, on the periphery, I've been a fly on the wall for a lot of transactions for my clients. And by the way, private equity, they never come in and buy the bad clients. They always come in and buy the good ones. Okay,
Yeah.
so folks that I've had a good relationship with, uh, I want what's best for them. And a power exit is when it is time. I want it to be as smooth a transaction as possible, and I want you to maximize your value
Amen.
because you've worked hard for
Yep.
it. And these people are my friends, and they're moving on to a different stage of their life, a different chapter. And I want it to be a smooth transaction, and I want them to maximize the valuation.
Amen. That's why we're buddies, right? We met a couple years ago and really bonded outside of what we do. And, again, this isn't a poster for Allan Webb at Snellings Walters, but thank you for saying what you just said because you live it. And I appreciate that. So, if the audience wanted to get in touch with you, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us how they can find Allan Webb.
Well, if you go to our website, Snellings with two S's, Walters.com, I'm there with all the other partners.
Awesome.
So
Great.
please reach out if I can be of any help.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you very much. And I can't wait for our next breakfast.
All right. Take care.
All right, buddy.